All right, everyone, the Covington saga continues. Nick Sandmann actually managing to get into the news, which it's difficult for that to happen at this point because the Covington case originally, the way it was being reported on, was a group of evil, racist, MAGA hat-wearing kids were harassing, like, nice, peaceful Native American marchers. And that was basically the story for the first day it was run with. And then it was, oh, well, there's some question as to what to happen, but, Sandmann was grinning the wrong way, like he's not allowed to smile certain ways because that's, like, a white male privilege or some bullshit. And the WAPO, the Washington Post, just got apparently its suit filed by Sandmann against them for $250 million. Do I think that any judge in the land is going to award that much money for a defamation case? No. Do I think that he'll win the case? Yeah, I think that he's got a pretty cut and dry victory, to the point where the only thing that the Washington Post is likely to do defensively is settle the case and say, look, otherwise we're going to drag this through court so long that, the court costs will eat up the entire judgment anyway, so just settle it. They'll offer him, like, probably $1 million big ones or something, and then he'll haggle them up to 5 or whatever. And finally, they'll find some sort of actual, like, legitimate judgment. The court will go along with it. Or they'll proceed with the case. The court will cut it short and say, okay, well, yeah, you win the case, but that's excessive. Like, $250 million is a lot of money. That's as much money as Bezos, apparently. It's the exact same amount that he paid for the Washington Post. By the way, did you know that Amazon and Bezos actually owned their own news outlet? Yeah, I wonder why the Washington Post is on board with some of the Silicon Valley stuff, like censorship. And think, Amazon is actually the least worrisome of them all, is the least dystopian. Honestly, it's very, very funny to think of Amazon actually being sort of the more neutral party in Silicon Valley at this point. Probably because Amazon is so big, he's like, wow, I don't want to do anything risky, I don't want to alienate anyone. Maybe they're trying to hold out and not alienate people long enough for all the other Silicon Valley firms to collapse so that Bezos can own the whole world. Might govern it better than the globalists do, although he is one. Now, I'm making a joke. As far as Sandmann goes, though, it's a cut and dry case. In some cases, these media groups slandered him. They said, look, one of the major claims, one of the major reasons why he'll win most of these cases is that they made the objective claim that the Covington kids and Sandmann had approached these other people. That is demonstrably not true, and when confronted with information that wasn't true, it took some of these outlets days to retract, and some of them didn't. I don't know that the Washington Post ever retracted and apologized. Well, that's a big, big problem. I think they're suing the Covington diocese, among other things, or the diocese of that county or region, or however the hell the Catholic Church works. That might not work. It's a little bit different than getting slandered by a news organization, but if you want to claim journalistic credibility, like, hey, we report the news, we don't fuck around with spin cycle bullshit. I mean, we're not propagandists. I mean, we're certainly not paid under the table by Uncle Sam to spread pro-war bullshit or anything, which they are. Maybe not WAPO, but we know CNN, BuzzFeed, some of these others definitely are. What happens? They come out and they make a claim. They're confronted with evidence that it's false, and then they still stick with it. Oh yeah, but they tried to morph the story when they realized that the entire story that they had been presenting for the first 48 hours completely fell apart because you had other camera angles disproving it objectively. When that ended up happening, you saw that they started coming out with a second wave of articles. Oh, well, there's debate over it. Oh, this has opened up a national debate. Now, the real national debate is how dumb the mainstream media is, and how dishonest they are, and how reluctant they are to own up to their big mistakes. The problem is that Sandmann is a minor. He's not even an adult. That makes it considerably more troublesome. And the thing is, what he's going to say in court is basically, look, I'm going to be trying to get into college, I'm going to be trying to get a job, I'm going to be doing X, Y, and trying to get a date or whatever, and people are thinking of me as a Nazi. They smeared my face all across their publications. I was front page news for several days. They said that I smiled the wrong way, that I was acting aggressively, that I was trying to be a terrible racist person, that I'm a bigot. There were people, they tried to dox me, they called up and threatened my home, they put the fear of God into me, Covington Catholic, they threatened to shoot up my school, they did crazy, terrible things. And this all happened because of this defamation. And he's right, it did. It shouldn't have been a major story anyway. There's no reason that it should have been a major story. The Covington situation was never aggressive. Nobody threw a punch. Nobody actually was being particularly confrontational. There was small amount of heated language from the black Israelis that were conveniently left out of the initial story. I remember on day 2, they were pretending like that never even happened. Like when you brought up, hey, you do realize that this other group of people was antagonizing both the Covington kids and the indigenous marchers and calling them all sorts of racist names, right? Oh my god, you conspiracy theorists, that's not true at all. No, the Covington kids are evil little racist assholes and went up and they started confronting these other groups because they hate blacks and they hate Hispanics and they hate immigrants in general. They hate Native Americans and they're evil white male oppressors. They've got privilege and shit. And it was really, really funny, like on day 3 when that story was completely washed away, you saw all these people who had like whipped themselves into a frenzy talking about the Covington kids were evil, trying to excuse their own vitriol and hatred by saying, oh yeah, but they're still like patriarchal and shit. They represent, Catholicism is like oppressive and stuff. It was very, very funny to see them back up over and over. And that's more virtuous than what the MSM did. The MSM, some of these outlets never apologized. To my knowledge, some of these pundits and analysts and media firms never issued a retraction. They still have their initial stories up. They're still there saying that Nick Sandmann is like Goebbels and these people behind him were like brown shirts. The stories are still there. They were never taken down. No retraction issued. There wasn't even like a statement put at the beginning of the article saying, oh, in retrospect, this is complete bullshit and should be in the Onion. But we're sorry about that, but we're leaving it here for posterity as a cautionary lesson to shitty journalists. And this is just Sandmann's opening volley. I don't know that the other Covington kids are involved. I think it's basically all of them suing. And I guess that's maybe why you would sue for more. It's like, hey, they defamed every single person here. I'm the one named because I was the one defamed the most and doxed and harassed and threatened and called a Nazi. But all these guys are in it too, and you know, they want their cut of the pie. If I had a son who acted the way that Sandmann or any of the Covington kids acted, I'd be proud of him, and I'd be like, what the fuck is the lamestream media doing? No, 20 years from now, I got a son in high school or something, and something like this happens, and I'm going to take to YouTube, if it still exists, or whatever holographic weird video hosting site there is by that point, say, look, I told you the MSM was full of shit. I told you that they were dishonest, disingenuous hacks, and they are. And the Washington Post is traditionally one of the worst. Bezos like, well, you know, they're independent. I don't tell them what to say. Okay, you know, granted. Okay, but they were dishonest before anyway. It's not like Bezos comes along, grabs up the publication, and makes it a bad publication. It was bad to begin with. He shouldn't have bought them. I don't know what he saw in them. He should be buying up some YouTubers. He should try to do what CNN did with Casey Neistat, is turn him into Hillary fanboy or something. That would be funny. Hey, we'll give you a bunch of money. Just make a plug for the candidate that we like. Trust me, it's coming. You know, now that they know how powerful the independent media is, I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happens in this election. I wouldn't be surprised if political campaigns start approaching independent content creators and saying, look, put the sign behind you, you know, passive advertising. Wear this merch, wear the Hillary shirt or the Bernie hat or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised. By the way, if I were running for office, you'd be damn sure I would do stuff like that. Way, way more effective than trying to go through CNN or Fox, some spin cycle bullshit. It'll happen. Sandmann should run for office. Keep yourself in the news as long as possible and keep hammering away at these people and suck up all their money. Look, they're basically parasites, so I mean, it's just leeching the leeches at that point. Yeah, I wish him well. I hope that he wins all these cases. Although, again, I don't think any judge is going to award him $250 million. Maybe a few million or something. So the judge will say, look, this person's reputation, and he's not even an adult yet, has been irreparably damaged, at least in the minds of some people, because they saw for several days Nazi, 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 hateful bigot, evil patriarchal white male, harassing people, hates Native Americans, telling foreigners to go back home and stuff like that. And none of that ever happened, but that was claimed by all of these groups, and many of them never apologized in a due manner quickly enough for the damage to be reversed. There are still people out there that think Sandmann's a Nazi. That potentially harms his ability to gain employment, to gain education, to enter a relationship or something. Someone says, oh, you're Nick Sandmann. Oh, you're that Nazi there. Yeah, I was going to, you know, deep throat you, but now I'm not going to do jack shit because you're a Nazi. So it's going to happen. Look at what happens with Worski. With his apparent ongoing suit with Holt and Right Wing Watch. He's saying, well, you know, I've been, you know, because of this hit piece against me 2 years ago, people still fucking refer to it now and think that I'm a rapist and a Nazi. Well, yeah, that can be harmful now, can it? It's a horrible thing when the media decides to lie, which it does every day, but it usually it doesn't slander a group of minors who did nothing wrong. That's like a totally different world from just their standard hit piece, like, oh, YouTube is full of Nazis or something. That's about all. Peace out.